Okay, so this is just a little video to get you started on textures and different ways to think about things. And we're going to think about some wood textures. Now, there's lots of different types of wood, and there's lots of different treatments to wood. And then there's different strategies for building wood here in the computer. So I just have a NURBS plane there with a material tossed on there. And it's just a blend. Um, and so I'm going to pop down to the Maya wood, which everyone seems to have some sort of issues with. Okay, so there we go. So here's the wood in there, and as you see, it looks like crap. It's like, oh, that doesn't look like wood. Ah, well, you got to mess with it. Okay, and there's several things we got to do. All right, so the first thing is here in the wood node, the texture node. Okay, yeah, you have your vein color, so I can, lighten that up a bit, make it so it's not so contrasty. Yeah, maybe dark. Yeah, okay. All right, so you have your vein spread. Okay, so you can play with that. Um, okay, so you got your age of your trees. That's just how many rings you get. So it. Oh my. I mean, the controls are in here. You just have to play with them. All right. So then, let's see, there's little grains. And so I'm going to lighten those up a little bit. All right. And I don't like them quite so dark. And so you can take down the contrast a touch, but you play with it. But anyhow, so then the key thing to getting this to work well is getting down to these noise attributes. And so now, let's take a quick before. Save that off. Okay, so as you see, it's changed it up a little bit, but still, it's crap. I can't use that. And so the two tricks I have for using this is adding a tiny bit of noise into this. Okay, so now let's give that a go. All right, well, something's happened. It's still crap. All right, so let's come back to this, okay? But, do start digging into the different closed windows within the textures. There's more in there. The thing is, this is a 3D texture. It has a 3D place 3D texture node here. Okay, and this is what it looks like. As you notice, it's dropped in there and it's perfectly aligned with the world and the piece of wood. Now, when wood is cut in the sawmill, right? They're cutting along the length of the wood, but the wood has a bit of an arc to it from when it grew, and so they're cutting through that a little bit. So if I just add a tiny amount of rotation, okay, we'll save that off and hit render. Ah, now we're getting to something that looks sort of like wood. Okay, so very handy. And so I can scale this up. So maybe that's what I want. Scale it down. Okay, so we got this edge there. We'll have to take a look at that. I bet that's a repeat somewhere. So that is a concern. Maybe twist it a bit. Okay, so no, I'm still getting that. Okay, well, getting back to the tough stuff before we get to, we will tackle that. All right, so popping up the hypershade again. La la. So here we are. And so let's get back down here. I guess my numbers were wrong. Let's try 2. See what we get. All right, so save that. All right, tilt it. I think 2 is a little much. Okay. But if I'm doing like the burl wood on a Jag, that would work. Now, why would I need to do that procedurally? I don't know. 0.8. Let's try that. Okay, so that's getting into something that's reasonable, that I would expect to see. Okay, so yeah, you want to play with the ripples, okay, and you want to play with the so if I put this to 2 in 2, 2, and 2, just to keep it easy. Okay, so that's what I end up with. If I cut the number of ripples in half, So 0.5, 0.5. Okay, so how do you know the numbers? You don't. You guess. Okay, so the first thing you try is, all right, let's try doubling. All right, that didn't work. Half the number. Okay, now that gets me to something, that's sort of reasonable. That's sort of maybe what I'm looking for. Maybe now I can put in a little bit more noise. Let's say 6 in the Y. There we go. Yeah, okay, that's I'm pretty darn happy with that. Okay, the other problem's gone away. I would, my educated guess on that is probably just being at the center of the world here, and I'd probably have to move my construction over like this. Now, saving this, if I move this down, and we, all right, get the camera in one spot. Okay, there we go. So saving that, and I move this up and render that. As you see, it changes the pattern. So if you animate this, it is going to change. And you're going, interesting. Hey, if I could get some really neat effects on that. If I have my character staring at a wall and starting to trip out on LSD, we can have all this stuff start to move, and then we dissolve to some sort of fantasy scene. I don't know. But you want to think about these sorts of things while you're having happy accidents. All right, so if you want it to stay the same, okay, you got two options. Once you get the wood out there the way you want it, one is to do an edit, convert to file texture my software. That'll just dump it out as a file texture, okay, a TIFF or Targa or something like that, so that's handy. Okay, the other thing that you can do is in the rendering menu set, rendering, and you go to, where is it? Texture. Create texture reference object. So the texture reference object, what it does is it makes a templated copy, and so you animate, you move the this guy, okay, he's on, and it references the templated version. Okay, let's probably get that so you can see it. Yeah, so there's a templated copy. I moved mine up. You usually just leave it where it is. And you just toss it in a group and forget about it. But like if this is a deck of a ship, I could just group these two guys together. And I'm fine, and they'll move together, and I put that under, the ship, and it goes. Okay, so that's the easy stuff. Now, the main thing that you want, this still does not look like wood. It's too smooth through here. We're getting somewhere. It's looking okay. So that's happy accident. But, we can't make a living on happy accidents. We have to have control. Our bosses are going, oh, I want it this way. Oh, I got another dumb idea this morning. And you go, yeah, okay. All right. So various things. Let's, if we toss this into the bump map, and okay, yeah, take a render. I knew it was going to be that bad. Okay, so the bump map. Rarely do I like to have it set to 1, so let's take that to a small number. Okay, there we're getting to something. And you can really see the little, the grains and stuff in there. All right, so I can smooth this out a bit more. Let's say 0.1. So now we're getting to something. It's a little, it's a little over the top. It's also plasticky because the spec highlight's wrong. Okay, so I think we're going to take this way down. Okay, so there we have just a tiny touch. It's just a subtle little thing in there. But, it's a lot of little subtle things that make something look real. Okay, so far so good. Next, okay, what I'm going to need to do is, well, let's look at that speck highlight. Okay, so we'll take a touch of yellow. Okay, a tiny amount of yellow to it. Mm, yeah, too much. See how a little bit goes a long way? So, all right. And of course, it matters what's treated on the wood. You know, if it's raw wood, you're going to have one specular highlight. If it has gloss polyurethane on it, that's going to look really different, right? Because you're not going to replicate the specular highlight of the wood per se. You're going to do that thin layer, micro thin layer, or if you're in America, centimeter layer of polyurethane gloss. And so that's actually a different material, and you have to think about that. Okay, so if this is highly polished, I'm going to take down my eccentricity. If it's rough, I'm going to take up the eccentricity and take probably down this specular roll off. Eesh, no, that sucks. Up, up, up. Anyhow, it takes a lot of playing around with it, and there. Okay. So I can, yeah, that's sort of that nice golden glow I was sort of looking for. All right, and so it's playing with all these features until you get it accurate, okay, and get it just the way you want it for the type of wood you're trying to simulate. Okay, so that's one way of approaching it. Of course, you have, how reflective is that surface, and so you have you can do that here. I can set up a clear coat, and let's see, getting into some advanced stuff, but it's clear coat. Okay, good. I'll leave that the default settings. I usually do it a different way than that, so I'm doing, but that's under utilities, the clear coat, and then of course we want our reflection map in there. So I'm going to go to environmental textures, environmental sphere, and then into the environmental sphere, into the image, I drop a file, and the file is my background. So, and so that's whatever background image that you want to build. Da, da, da. So, come on. I just used it on this computer the other day. Okay, there we go. All right. And so now, let's see, we'll save that and take a render. And it's subtle, which is good. So maybe I have to tweak the index here and the scale and play with that. But that is definitely subtle. Okay. Also, if I take up and they all work in concert. Okay. Ah, there we go. Yeah, you see. So as I bring that up, it's going to bring more of the reflection into play. Now I'm going to really need to see this at a glancing angle to see that. Yes, and now I'm starting to get a little bit of that reflection there. Okay, so let's take a quick look at that. All right, so I have my basic wood. I'm toss it through the bump map. I'm using a clear coat so that as I do more of an angle, I get a more reflection, okay, and it gets glossier the closer I bring myself down onto that floor and am looking across it. It'll get very reflective or somewhat reflective, depending on what I do with this clear coat. which is that guy there. And okay, when I put the environmental sphere in, Maya now automatically links up the bump map. And so the bump map pops in and will bump that reflection as it's in there. So let's take that number down. See, maybe I can get a little more there. Nope. Anyhow, so, you know, as with any of this stuff, you know, the more you practice with it, the more you're comfortable with the numbers that you have to put in for certain strategies. Okay, so that's one way to do this.